Welcome again to Wickerson Studios. My name is Michael Wickerson, and the only way for me to learn C# script programming outside of just finding C scripts in the GH nodes, which I found online courtesy of the groups we've started on Facebook. Going back to some simple geometries that I used to like to make in Grasshopper, and you'll see how I use the data from the C script getting into list access. What I did recently is I'm going through Rajaa Issa's site and basically generating her simple scripts and then trying to jazz them up into some simple, interesting geometries. I've done one for each of these, so just group that. And then I did one with list access, item access, and then this one's just basically dealing with data as list access, which means it runs once. So the proof in this script is quite simple. I'm going to jump in here and I'm going to turn off my emap and just go over here. It's a little slow, and we'll just jump that back to shaded so you can see what's going on. That's what I've generated, this little form. Not too hard to do in Grasshopper, but I thought it would be nice to run it from data coming out of C. So we'll shade that, and we'll put on everything that we can see. And it should pop in here in a minute. I'll just have to make everything visual because nothing's visual. And preview on, you can see all the jazz that's happening in here. There you go. So you got a lot of little funk happening, and I should be able to click through and show you each thing as we step through. If I do this, there you go. So basically creating a series, not unlike anything that she did. The script is fairly simple. I wrote it twice, so it came right out of the online resource from Rhino developers. And you can see what was generated was from my node system. Let me slide this down here. You can see the node has a list in, but the trick here is I'm doing list access. And what's happening is as the output, it's only running once. Now it looks like it's running twice because I inefficiently wrote the program twice, one for X list, one for Y list, and I added a little Z integer value here so I can play with the size and scale as I slide that through. And I'll show you how the script works. But basically, you've got to set everything. So as you go into this section and get past all the introductory areas which you have to import, or actually what's being used in C#, I should say. I am reading and I'm studying like crazy, and one of the best things that came off of online, and I'd recommend to everybody, not only this, but it actually pairs with videos, is the basic C# for GH3D. I don't know if you can see that, but I put it up on our site. Of course, that's backwards, so that's useless. But I'm running through that little 19-page document, which is going to allow me to know pretty much the basics of writing in C, and I can interpret that over into Grasshopper for sure. And then what I've done is you have to make everything. You have to identify the type of everything. I'm using a for each loop here, which is coming right out of the script, which says for, and the variable thing here is when you don't know your type, or maybe you know it, but you just don't want it to guess at the type of what you're generating. Of course, we're generating a double of the new list, and then I'm basically adding to that list 10. Now that's not very exciting. If I do that, actually this one adds 10, the other one adds Z, so it actually plays off of where it puts it. So I put in another variable, and I was bringing it in with the correct type hint as well. Keep in mind that they're both list access, so list access runs only once, and then number of iterations equals, and then I put in the keyword, I guess, there for iteration to what actually is happening, and then that's what's running here as I run the script. I'm getting two little systems, which is nice, X list and Y list, the new list 1 and new list 2, and that data is what I'm going to play with. It's pretty simple data, but it's manageable. If I shut this, you can see what happens when you start to play with these scripts and what happens to the iterations as they count, and what happens to these numbers. And that's going to be a little tight here. But if I change the start, obviously it's going to run the script totally different and change what happens as a form, which is kind of nice. I'm just going to leave that at 0. So you got a lot of geometric control. Actually, I don't think it was at 0. Let's set it off to 2. 1 is the step count. It's going to have a big play on it and exploding it out. And of course, I'm using polar arrays and move functions, so that's pretty simple. And using ranges, which is something I like to do through different domains and setting that. You could use remaps and such when you could go to Grasshopper. And then I've got a shift list, which is also going to play off of the Y list and play with kicking that around a little bit. So that's kind of fun to play with the geometries in all different ways. The Z is an amplification, so I can do that to really pull it out in the X direction just by adding that. And then with that data, I can go in and I created a quad sphere. That's why this is interesting to me. Quad spheres are nice because you can grab a side of what you actually want. So the quad sphere is created, but I just want to grab certain amounts. So I could grab all 6 sides, but I could also just grab 5 or 4 or 2. It wouldn't matter to me. So you can see how this plays off of the shape. But in the end, this is where I was playing around. I can go from 0 all the way to 3 as that rotates through and does things. You'll see as the more I put in, the more I seal it up. I don't know if I'm doing the rotation again. It's more this form on the inside. So where I was playing, here it is in the polar arrays. I play through that 2, 3, 4. It closes up as it gets to 6. So it starts with 1 or 0, but then it starts with 1 at the top, then 2, then 3, then 4. It slowly stops and closes as a form. Now, whether I use that or not, that was my initial idea. I jittered that into a move up in different directions and grab whatever sections I wanted, and then my jitter has a way to bring it back to normal, but then take it to a full jitter, whatever shape. And it's really just a way of building kind of these architectures. And then I started to send this through a extrude from normals, and I was like, what am I doing? And I just got carried away. And that's really it. So be creative. If you're good at Grasshopper, get in there and do-si-do and make as much as you want. Know that it comes from the script and the data that's being driven by C, and slowly wrap your head around how to write these things clearly and formally and understand what's happening. But the main goal here was to make a shift from understanding how it runs as a single access, item access, 10 things, and this one's off up here. That generated a pretty interesting geometry. This one generates this little form, and I just do this to make it interesting for myself because I like the sculpt, and it made sense to just put this in. I'll take off everything but the last visual. Preview off, and then I can go in here, and that's not too exciting to look at, so let me slide that back up to 6 where it was. I think it's nice and jumbly that way, and I like to have my, whenever I have a chance to jitter, I like to jitter. Not completely nuts, but like at least jitter a little bit so you can play with it as a form. It's kind of like this, panels that are falling. They're not connected, but you could figure out how to do it with paper and elongate things. And what happens when you think of it as paper forms that you can actually generate, you could take the range of that, scale of that. Let's just crank that up to maybe 5 and see what happens on the range. There we go. So now you've got something that's just blasted way too big and not making too much sense. So shrink that down. You can play with that as you kind of litter those up. There we go. And then and if I wanted to, I could also bring the scale to the bottom scale if I wanted to play with that. I actually don't mind that. 0.5 through to 1.28, maybe a little bigger. And now you've got something that's, I don't know if you're thinking rose petals or fabricating or something naturally simulating something. I don't know. It's what I like to do. I'm going to take it and throw it to a bake and do a group bake for sure. And then pull that back into a render. And then probably just see how that looks next to all the other iterations. And there they are. So nice little form. Don't know if I'd ever make it. But I certainly wrote a little script for doing it, and this just makes, like I said, learning the real basics of all this. The first one, just an intro to getting into the C script. I'm using a gene pool instead. I'm sticking with Rajaa Issa's series, but I'm jazzing them up by making a couple more variables that come in wherever I can and trying to add a little something as well. And as long as my scripts run, then I know I'm learning, and things are going to get more into functions or methods, as I should say, or get into what's, I believe, referred to as, what are they called? Their fields, properties, and methods are all, starts with an M. Have to take a look at it. I can't remember. Members, I guess they're referred to in C#. And so can I make those work and everything? Goes honky-dory. So anyway, 8.5 minutes playing around. These scripts will be on. These are the scripts I'm working with, hopefully with Daniel Christov, who I'm very excited because he was the one that inspired me 2 years ago to even start looking at Grasshopper because of his mathematics, and you can really see the influence of him on a very basic level because he stopped producing his introductory files that I see on GitHub, but I'm starting to partner up with him a little bit, which is exciting. So let's see if some of these can actually become sculptures, see if they can become castings, see if they inform, and as I get better at C, the smaller these scripts will actually become, and the more and more I'll be able to tuck into here. So this will be an ongoing series, and it will never, ever end. All right, take it easy. I'm going to save that document. There we go. And we'll get in and we'll learn on the next stage what tree access does, which is going to make things pretty exciting. So for all those that have stuck with single unit access and got into list access a little bit, now you've got your dashed lines coming in. And it should be really exciting. Thanks for watching.